Welcome to Illuminate Psychology podcast with Dr. Rolla, where we explore the stories we carry, the wounds we often hide, and shine the light on the path of healing and hope. In this space, we talk about trauma recovery, suicide prevention, and all things mental health and wellness with warmth, empathy, and understanding. Today's topic is a very sensitive one, but we're going to talk about it because so many of you are impacted. The title is What Happens When a Man Loses His Job? This is a very personal struggle, regardless of your gender. But for a man, it takes on a different level of complexity. And I want to explore that today. Some of you men watching, or some of you who love men who have lost their jobs, you will be able to understand what I'm going to share today. So my goal is to talk about the emotional issues, the psychological issues surrounding this subject, and also some of the strategies to help a man to cope. When a man loses a job, it really is more than just a financial loss or a career setback. It is about that deep internal grief that comes from work, that comes from loss of work. For a man, his work is connected very closely to his identity, his pride, and his purpose. In this country, in the last few months, so many people have been laid off. And this is a very sensitive time, and not to minimize the impact of a woman losing her job at all. But when a man loses his job, from my experience of working in therapy and what we know about masculinity, it's different. And I know that we're all equal, but there are some differences, and some of you may disagree with me, but there are some differences, and I'm going to talk about it today. When a man loses his job and is connected with his identity and his sense of purpose and his pride, then the grief hits him on a very deep level. What do we often tell somebody who loses their job? Fix your resume, network, stay positive. Those are good things to say because you're trying to encourage the man to get back to work, or a woman. But when a man loses his job, this is what he's hearing. Who am I if I am not working? How do I face my family without shame? And what does it mean to be a man if I'm unemployed? A client of mine said to me within the last year, I wonder what my wife says when people ask her what I do for work. This man had maintained employment for many years, but there was some issues with being laid off. It hadn't even been a year since he had been laid off. But that statement made in therapy showed me clearly that his sense of identity was being threatened. For many men, work is more than money, it's a cornerstone of identity, And the loss is connected with fear. Fear that his work history, years of dedication, and all that he has put into his career to feel valuable and feel worthy may be gone. Even though we know on a mental level that your job title does not define you, but sometimes in order to cope with these difficult times, as a man, we have to acknowledge what you're feeling. Oftentimes you don't want to acknowledge it, you don't want to appear weak. But if you're feeling it, in this podcast, in this space, we want to empathize with you that that's how you feel. We can't just tell you to get over it, because you can't, but we can support you as a man. I'm hoping that the people who are around you can understand the depth of your sense of loss and be sensitive to that and find strategic ways to help you understanding the connection that your masculinity, that you as a man has, the connection that masculinity has with work. Losing your job causes you to grieve. I want to encourage you, please allow yourself to grieve. Many men do not express how they feel. Some were told coming up as little boys that little boys don't cry. You may not have had the opportunity to acknowledge things, just to act strong all the time. But sometimes in order to really, really heal, you have to accept that you're in pain. And you don't have to talk about it a lot, but just admitting it to yourself and a few trusted people around you could be a real big deal and be very helpful for you. Some of the men I've worked with in recent years actually chose to come for therapy when they lost their jobs because they were looking for a space to work through this difficult time. And honestly, as a therapist, having worked with men for so many years, when they come into therapy and they initiate therapy, it is so validating for me. And I really pay a lot of attention to acknowledging that this is a big deal for them to come and talk to somebody. And I validate the fact that being vulnerable is not necessarily easy for them. That's why in therapy, when I'm working with a man whose sense of identity is being threatened or they're grieving a job loss, I allow them to take their time in admitting their vulnerability, and I follow their leading as related to the pace of treatment and the pace in which they divulge information or disclose their feelings. I may move it at a slower pace because I understand that many of them are struggling to even talk about how they feel. I want you to admit to your family that you're struggling, and I want you to do it in a way that works for you. There is no right or wrong way to admit that you are struggling. But because many men like to feel that they are solving a problem or they're fixing something, it may be helpful for you to channel some of that frustration into problem solving or into coming up with ideas, for example, on how to reduce the family expenses since your income is not as high as it used to be or is non-existent at this time. Some of the men are still working, but they're working part-time now, or the salary is not as high, or they're underemployed? What about you admitting that you are struggling with your job loss or with your career setback, but you want to channel that into talking to your spouse, sitting down with the family, working with them to add up the numbers, and using that as an opportunity to say, I'm going to need your help in light of this situation with my work so that we can keep the household running. That is a place where you can show vulnerability, and you can also show your strength in problem solving and wanting to be there for your family. You're receiving support to work through this time by admitting that you're struggling, but you're also being there and letting them know that you're not just going to leave them hanging. You're going to be there through the journey to be of support. You're not going to hide away somewhere. You're going to be connecting with them even though you're feeling overwhelmed. It is important to have honest and practical conversations. Some men feel guilty telling their family that there's not enough money, that the budgets may need to be cut in some areas. I know that's understandable for you to feel that way. You may even feel like you're not being the kind of man that you really want to be. But wouldn't you want to be the kind of man that is honest? Wouldn't you want to be the kind of man that is showing by example that you can look at the numbers, call things what they are, and act accordingly? I see that as a sign of strength to have those honest, practical conversations. While you may feel defeated or feel that you're not as productive as you like to be, what about just looking at what issues you have now? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know whether you're going to get a high income tomorrow. What about looking at the expenses now? Maybe you can eat out less. Maybe you can buy food in much more in bulk. Maybe you can do less travel. Maybe you can travel more within the area and save money and spend more time in the quality of the relationships and the connections. Even if you can't get on a plane to go to Hawaii, you can go to some outskirts of your city. You can go to the mountains. You can go on a hike. I remember during the COVID period, there wasn't a lot of travel. I hiked the Appalachian Trail. You can do so many things that can save you money and still feel a deep sense of connectedness with your family. Maybe even more connected than you were when there was much more money to splurge. And you can use that opportunity to build hope in your family, to let them know that you're hoping for the best. You're also teaching them by example that when they have problems in the future, you're modeling for your children and for your spouse or anyone in your family or your loved one that when they have problems, that they shouldn't shy away from it, that they shouldn't avoid it, that they should look at the fact, that they should look at the numbers and make hard decisions. That's part of what it means to be a man. And I believe you can do that. And I want to encourage you to do that as you navigate this complex path of grieving because you lost your job. Now I want to talk about how a man's emotional health can be significantly impacted because of job loss, unemployment, or underemployment. We have enough data, research showing that unemployment for men can trigger depression, anxiety, and maybe even suicidal thoughts, because your self-worth is so intertwined with your work, and it can unfortunately push you into a place where you're feeling worthless. And worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness can increase the risk of depression. If you as a man had suffered depression in the past, this can make the depression worse. Please be careful and mindful. We don't want to make long-term, life-changing decisions based on this difficult situation. You will hear me say often, there are many options besides suicide. There are many options besides suicide. Even though you don't see it, there are many options besides suicide. The fact that you're feeling down right now does not mean that there's no way out. Some of the things that you were not able to explore in terms of opportunities for other kind of employment, you were not able to do that because you were gainfully and fully employed. But now that the job situation has happened, you never know what is out there that you have not been able to find out yet. I want you to really try to maintain an attitude of hopefulness and positivity. And that's what I've worked with my patients who are struggling in this area. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know who's gonna hire you, but you're gonna keep doing things. We strategize on doing things to show that there is hope for the future. Like some of the men that I've worked with, please get help. Having your own space where you can talk about things can be very, very helpful. Sometimes some of you men may not feel as comfortable to really talk about how painful things are with somebody that you really love in your family. You may want to go to a place where there's less judgment and where you feel like you can share your feelings without shame. And that's why talking to a support person, a support group, a mental professional, a spiritual advisor can be very helpful. I want you to look out for signs that you are overwhelmed in how you express your emotions. Have you become very irritable? Are you showing anger inappropriately? Because we all can get angry, but are you snapping at everyone? Or getting easily overwhelmed? Are you struggling with sleeping? Is it hard for you to get restful sleep? Is your appetite increasing or decreasing in an abnormal way? Are you isolating? Are you withdrawing from others? Are you drinking more than recreationally, even though somebody around you or your family does not know? Are you feeling that you need to drink before you go to bed, or you drink in the early hours in the morning? Are you beginning to abuse substances? And are you using substances as an outlet to mask your pain? I want you to look out for some of these signs, and please be careful. Get help. What you are going through, so many other people are going through it. And I find that when we start talking to people, sharing with others who are going through, it just feels a little bit more manageable. We're shining the light today on the path of hope about when a man loses his job. And I want to encourage you. I know it may look bleak. Please don't give up. The challenges you're facing are overwhelming for you. We don't want to engage in risky behaviors that can make it worse, that can take a situation that is difficult and add additional layers of difficulty to it that could cause families to disintegrate or could cause legal issues or problems. We don't want that. We really don't want that. We don't want the problem of addiction. Your mental health really does matter, and I want you to honor your struggles with compassion and with connection with others, not by being quiet about it. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You're a hardworking man. You have done your part. Things have just not turned out the way you thought it will. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Please seek help. There's help there for you. Now I want to talk about some ways to cope with the whole process. Job hunting is difficult as you feel the sense of grief and sadness. It can even be anxiety provoking if people are not hiring that much, or you've applied for several jobs and you haven't heard back. It is exhausting mentally. You may even approach the process of job hunting with dread, wondering how many more applications you will put in before you even get a phone call. Some of you have been gainfully employed and happy in your careers for so long, but when a man loses his job and is suffering from self-doubt, he may even be questioning his strengths or his ability to do the work, even though he's competent to do it. And that can be very exhausting. I want to encourage you to stay connected with employment circles or people along the line of work that you do emotionally, to just reassure yourself that you're still that same person. Even though you're not working right now, you still have that skill set, you still work very hard. That can help to keep your sense of self a little bit more strengthened, and that can help you to cope with that feeling of dread and overwhelmness about applying for jobs. I want you to really think about maintaining a daily routine. Even though you're not going to a place, whether you're going there physically or logging in remotely, having a daily routine can be incredibly helpful. Have a set of things that you want to do in that day. It could be changing the oil and having an oil change in the car. It could be mowing the lawn. It could be going to the gym. It could be doing laundry. Something that is a to-do thing that will demand your attention can help to keep you preoccupied during the day and be a distraction in a positive way. I want to encourage you that you should set goals that are not too overwhelming, because you want to create time to job hunt. You want to try to job hunt more consistently. It may be too much if you're feeling overwhelmed to job hunt 3 hours a day. You may want to job hunt 1 hour a day, or set a set of goals. I'm going to contact several recruiters this week. I'm going to redo my resume in the next few days. Set goals and maybe have it written down, because some days you may wake up and think, what am I going to do today? I'm not working anywhere. I feel useless. If you have a list, even if you don't finish that list that day, that redirects you to things that you need to do. Once you put out that list and you do something like revamp your resume or revamp the cover letter, I want you to give yourself credit for that, because you're doing the best you can with the resources you have to move forward. You are not happy with where you are, but you're not also being stagnant. You're making movement. We don't want to be too married to the outcome. We want to also try to give ourselves credit for the efforts we make in the process, towards getting into the employment place or getting into that business place that you want to get into. Obviously, I've said this already, view job hunting as a process and understand that it's normal to have setbacks. Find ways to encourage yourself. One of my clients was attending networking meetings in like a restaurant, getting some ideas about business along his line of work, learning to do pitches about gaining customers. He was reading books about leadership. He was working on how to communicate better. He was reminiscing on things he did well in his last job and things he wants to improve. I just want you to look at this, even though it's difficult and money might not be coming in the way you need it to be, to see it as a time when you're also developing yourself and finding out more things that you could be connected with that you did not because you had a full-time job. And when you had a full-time job, you put in your hours, and in the evening, you did what you needed to do with your family and went to bed. Now you have the opportunity. There may be something out there that you have not considered before that now you can begin to consider. So I really want you to see this as a way to learn, understand, gain information, grow in some areas, celebrate the effort, keep notes. If you spoke to somebody, track who you spoke to. Do whatever possible to look at your notes or whatever schedule you have and say, wow, even though I'm not working yet, I'm actually working because I'm trying to figure out how to make the best of this difficult time. What you're doing as you see this as a process, as an opportunity to self-develop and connect and network, is that you're channeling your grief, you're channeling your pain in a positive way. You're utilizing healthy outlets to manage your feelings of loss about employment. And I also want you to see it as a time when you are strengthening your sense of worth as a man. I want you to hold close to your pride as a man. It's not an unhealthy pride. It's holding on to that identity, that masculinity that is still there as you are struggling with this difficult time of job loss. Embracing your masculinity can be redefined in a time of difficulty like this. You can begin to pay more attention to yourself and show more compassion to yourself. You can begin to give yourself some more credit for all that you've done in your work life and your commitment to your family and your efforts. Give yourself time to rest and exercise and find joy in the small pleasures and the small things. Sometimes in a very fast-paced world that we live in, we may miss the small things. We forget to smell the roses and look at our loved one in the eye and give them a big hug and appreciate who they are. And sometimes we don't have enough time, or we're so rushed, we're not receiving that love and that connection with them. This is the time maybe to get for many of you, not maybe, a matter of importance, to be balanced. Work is good. Being a man that provides is good, but you also have an inner life. You also have an aspect of your emotional life. You also have a spiritual part of you. This is a time to nurture that. It is a time to reframe your self-worth. It's a time to put value on yourself. Put value on the things you do that may not be always connected to money and income. Try in this time when you are redefining yourself to not be too overwhelmed. You may find that if you're too overwhelmed, you may be more irritable. The most important things that matter at the end of our lives are the people we love and the people that love us. Why don't you use this time when you are feeling the grief and the sadness of unemployment or underemployment to deepen your relationships? Start using words more. Start paying closer attention. Let this time be a season when you become stronger in connecting with people, connecting with your loved ones. Let this be a time when you develop strong relationship with other men and you guys can really talk to each other. In my work with men, I find that they generally do better when they engage in activities. And I find that joining a group, playing sports on the weekend, playing chess, doing things that are not all about the income can really help you to develop relationships with other men that are there for you when times are tough. When we have this sense that we have help and that we have support, it calms our nervous system. It builds a sense of hope. It makes us feel that the burden that we're carrying is lighter. You need that as a man. Even if you only say one or two things in that 1 hour, 2 hours time you spend in the activity, you know as a man that is meaningful to you in a way that it may not be meaningful for women who may need to have more emotional conversations. You're still connecting, but you're connecting your own way. And that's what matters the most. I want to talk now about your mindset as you look ahead as a man. For many of you, you take the job of a father and a husband, a brother, a mentor, a coach very seriously. And this loss of employment and this difficulty with your career or your business is difficult. But sometimes pain and loss is pregnant with opportunities for growth and healing. And I'm wondering if you can use this time to begin to embrace a much more balanced perspective on what masculinity is. I know that you want to be the provider, problem solver, the one who handles everything. And that's okay. But you can handle and support your family even if the money is not what you want it to be. And I've heard a lot of men say that if they don't have money, they do not believe that they will be loved or appreciated. But I know of many families where the man has had setbacks or gotten ill for a time or things have happened, and the father has still received respect and the father has still connected with the family. And I know of many fathers whose children talk about them today in glowing terms, even though the father could not always meet that material need. I want to encourage you as a man who has suffered loss in employment, in business, in career, that you can be much more broader in your perspective of who you are as a man. When life is uncertain in terms of the material part of your role as a man, you can still be present, you can still listen, and you still connect. You can still connect. That connection with others and the ones you love can actually help you to better cope with your feelings of sadness and overwhelmness. It can make you feel valued in ways that you may never have felt valued before. And you may find out that there are ways and opportunities to help those around you that you were never aware of until this time. Please do not shut down emotionally. Do not disappear. Let others share with you how they're doing without you feeling like you have to fix it. Be open to walking the journey with them and invite them to walk with you, even though you may not know how to totally say. You can say something like, I'm struggling too, but I don't always know how to communicate it, and I'm gonna need you. And that could be all that you feel comfortable saying, but for you, that is vulnerability, and that is huge, and that is a sign of strength for you. That is a sign of emotional maturity, and that is important. I want to encourage you as a guy to use simple tools. You can use a voice note to journal how you feel. You can organize activities to take your children to the park. That can be an outlet for you. You can use play with your family. You can even use football game. If there's a football season, you may want to get lost in that season while you're doing your job hunting, just to kind of, enjoy yourself. Give yourself permission to smile and enjoy your hobbies, even though you may not feel like you deserve to. You deserve to. You've been working all these years. You can take some time to do that. You may want to cook with your family more. You may want to barbecue for the family. And you maybe plan activities in this area that will cost less money, that is fun. This may be times that your family will never forget, times that you spent with them that you had never been able to spend, that would make them feel valued. You might do more homework more. You might coach the soccer team or something else part-time while you're looking for work. I don't know what, but I just want you to be curious about what the possibilities are for you. As long as you're curious and you're open-minded, you will find them. Do not allow yourself to shut down. Shutting down is not a good thing for you, because you will find that you'll be bottling up your feelings. And when we bottle up our feelings, it takes more psychic energy to bottle up our feelings than to express it. When the feelings and the emotions spill out, it's going to come out in ways that we don't like. And that's why it's important that we find these healthy ways to communicate our feelings. That's why you as a man need to find healthy ways to communicate your sense of loss and the challenges that you're facing right now. I want to encourage you to show up in this difficult time for you as a man. I want to encourage you to show up with honesty. Honesty. I want you to encourage you to work through the guilt that you're not able to do what you would have liked to do. It's okay to feel guilty because some of you can't help it, but don't let it eat you up. Try to hold it at bay. When you feel a sense of guilt, connect that with the evidence. The evidence is that you've always worked. The evidence is that you care. the evidence is that your paycheck has always been important. You are devoted to your family, even though you feel guilty. In psychology, we sometimes will challenge our clients to look for the evidence to confirm or disconfirm how they feel or what they're feeling. Put that feeling into context so that it doesn't become a feeling that is you consider valid or gospel. Bring the evidence, and when the evidence comes, you will feel, but the feeling will not be predominant, right? It will be more fleeting. I want you to be open. You've been the fixer, you've been the giver. Now I want you to be open to receiving, right? In this difficult time as a man, trying to be that strong one for your family, trying to figure out the next step to take, trying to chart the path, the way to go, what to do. You are going to be best positioned to do that when you are emotionally healthy. What I'm hoping for you, and I believe is possible, is that in spite of this loss and this difficult time in your career, in your job, in your business, that you will feel less resentful, that you will find a peace that is much more spiritual, that your relationships will deepen because it's based on truth and deep emotional connection, not just your performance, is that you will become more aware and more connected with the reality that your self-worth is more than your income, that your presence matters, that your wisdom matters, that your heart matters. Hi, thank you so much for checking out this clip. Please share, like, and subscribe to this channel so that you can view other episodes. Check us out on askdrrolla.com, where you find additional information about mental health and wellness. See you soon. Bye.